Well, I think we would all agree that it's been a difficult year. One thing I've heard repeatedly is how hard things seem to be right now. In many cases, it feels like bad news keeps coming. I don't want to gloss over the challenges that people are facing, the very real tragedy that some of us have had to deal with, or the hardship that our partnering families around the world are dealing with right now. However, tonight, I am excited to share with you some really good news of which we and you have been a part this year. As you know, in our work to restore creation and families, to reverse deforestation and poverty, we use a three-pronged approach. First, we start savings groups, which help very poor families to mobilize their money, empowering them economically. We pair those with farmer field schools to develop a synergy between regenerative agriculture and economic growth, restoring the land. The third element of the package is spiritual renewal. Let me see if I can. We work with local churches, helping them to provide the tools for people to grow closer to God and to live with hope and with expectation. Now, most of us in Plant with Purpose are not pastors. We come from different professions. We bring other specialties that we offer to God, whether those be scientific, agriculture, or business skills. So talking about where God is at work is often not our default. I include myself in that. But that means it's easy for us to overlook some of the ways that God is at work and some of the most important things that are taking place. Recently, I was with a number of our international leaders talking about the role of spiritual renewal in our program, and I found myself incredibly encouraged by what they had to say. One of the things that they all agreed on is that it's not the third part of our program. Rather, it is absolutely foundational. Richard, our director in Tanzania for the last 10 years, told me that when he first started, he saw it as something that was just an add-on, another thing that he had to do. But now he realized that one of the reasons we're experiencing remarkable results is because of the personal transformation taking place, something that a lot of other programs have struggled with. Dorbel, our Dominican director, goes so far as to say that it's the most important thing we do. Through difficult experience, he and I have learned that oftentimes helping someone to be more prosperous financially and to earn more money leads to a whole bunch of other problems, including broken families sometimes. Now, the people we serve are some of the poorest people in the world, subsistence farmers, people who grow their own food on whatever land no one else wants, oftentimes steep hillsides, rocky mountainsides with almost no topsoil, completely dependent on the rain that falls on it, and able to feed their families maybe one meal a day or even less. They're also some of the most disempowered people that you will find anywhere. They have been told time and time and time again that they have nothing to contribute, nothing to offer that anybody else wants. That message is reinforced by everyone from the market, which gives no value to anything that they can produce on their farms, to the media, which lifts up those who are material or prosperous, to their own governments, which consider them backwards and the barrier to progress, and often even our own children, or their own children. Josh Chalo, our new Vice President of International Programs, actually grew up on a small farm in Kenya. And he tells me that smallholder farmers, or peasant farmers as they're known, are actually considered to be social outcasts. I don't know if you can imagine how incredibly damaging that would be to your sense of self-worth or your idea of your value in God's eyes, or to your agency or sense of your ability to change anything. It's usually even worse for women. Evelyn, one of our senior staff in Mexico, was telling me about the workshops they do with indigenous women in Oaxaca, where they begin to learn about their identity in Christ. A woman will say, I don't know how to do anything worthwhile. Are you sure? Evelyn says, are you sure? You can make giant tortillas that I don't know how to make. You know how to plant vegetables and grow lots of corn and beans that I don't know how to grow. You know how to do lots of things. She challenges them to think of what all they know how to do, and they begin to get excited as they realize that they do have gifts. You are created in the image of God, she tells them, and given unique talents and gifts. This is a common theme in a lot of our teaching throughout our work. Farmers learn that not only are they created in the image of God, but that God was, in effect, the first farmer, planting a garden and then placing humans in that garden to tend it and to steward it and cultivate it. And that job has been passed on directly to them. Work is a gift from God. And as followers of Christ, we are all, each of us, you, me, every farmer around the world, given the incredible privilege, and I do mean privilege, of contributing unique gifts and talents back to God as participants in God's great plan of redemption. If the subsistence farmers, the peasant farmers of Burundi, have gifts and talents to contribute to God's kingdom, how much more have we been given to contribute? We together are Christ's hands and feet in the world. Now, we work in a lot of communities that are already nominally Christian, but many churches preach a gospel that stops at salvation. And as important as that is, it often has no implications for how people live their lives. I once had a guerrilla leader, a warlord, essentially, tell me that he had considered himself to be a Christian his entire life. But he never realized it applied to anything besides Sunday before until our staff started working in the area. In this narrow vision of the gospel, pastors have something to offer, but once again, farmers are left out in the cold. Once again, they have nothing to contribute. Stewardship of creation care casts their work in a completely different light. Christ is reconciling all things, whether things in heaven or things on earth, and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Farmers practicing regenerative agriculture and agroforestry are on the cutting edge of reconciling creation with human beings, reconciling those who are called to steward creation with that which they were called to steward. This gives farmers an incredible sense of purpose and meaning as they begin to go about their daily work, especially today as the world turns its eyes on issues of deforestation, land degradation, and climate change. Farmers play a huge role in any solution to those issues. In a very real sense, the last have become the first, and the least have become the greatest in their ability to make a difference. And to me, that's a real kingdom story. In fact, as the world looks more and more to nature-based solutions to climate change, and tree planting is an answer to some of our problems, Plant with Purpose finds ourselves in a unique position with tremendous and unprecedented opportunity. People are seeking us out. And that comes not just because of our experience In tree planting, our partnering families, by the way, have now planted over 43 million trees. But more importantly, it comes because we do it in partnership with the people who live on and depend on that land. As we work to restore the land, the people who live there are our partners, not our projects, and certainly not obstacles. And that means we are being sought out. But it's the stories of those people who live there that really excite me and keep me going. Stories of people like Lorena from Oaxaca. She recently shared, before, I didn't know the people in my purpose group well. Now that we work together, our way of seeing each other has completely changed. We realize that we're very different from what we thought. I hear Lorena and I wonder if there's anything we can learn from her. But she goes on to say, even the way I see myself and my own value has changed. Before, I was very aggressive. I got angry easy. I yelled and was annoyed at everything. After I heard what was being taught, it helped me control my anger, not yell so much, and live with everyone. I realized I needed to change in order to have a good relationship with my family and my neighbors. I also recognize that God is the one who gives us everything we have, and I'm thankful for that. Or I think of a story that I recently heard from Congo, where even the local bandits, the armed groups, the guerrilla groups, have noticed the change that's taking place in the communities we work. They sent a messenger to our local director. Very interesting message. The message was, we see what's happening, but we respect what's happening, and we'll leave you alone. There are a lot of stories like this, but data is also important because it's the data that lets us know that the impact is widespread, that poverty has been cut by more than 50%. It tells us that these types of stories are not one-off, they're not cherry-picked, but they're happening over and over and over again on a widespread scale. And I get really excited about that. I also get excited about the vision for what a transformed watershed could look like. We organize our work around watersheds, drainage areas that collect the rain that falls on them and delivers it to a stream, a river, or a lake. Each watershed typically contains a number of communities or villages, and we want them to be filled with flourishing families. More prosperous, yes, but also filled with God's love, filled with purpose, demonstrating compassion for one another and working together to bring about change. The vision also includes flourishing churches, churches that are growing, but also ministering to whole people and meeting the needs of both their members and their communities. Finally, the vision is one of flourishing creation, restored soil fertility to grow more food, and healthy water resources. After all, that's what a watershed does. When a watershed is healthy, water is filtered, stream flow is moderated, and water is available for crops and households. But flourishing creation doesn't end with human well-being. We've seen biodiversity increase where we've been working, and we eagerly watch for the return of animals and birds that had vanished. Our interaction with nature doesn't need to be a zero-sum game in which we make the false choice between helping people or helping nature. The thing is, this isn't just a fantasy. We have seen these changes taking place, and we've measured them empirically. I get really excited about that. We're currently working in 41 watersheds and serving just over 300,000 people. But that's just the beginning. This year has gone incredibly well. So well, we sat down and we reevaluated our strategic plan, Thrive 25, and adjusted all the goals upward. We now expect to be working in nearly twice or more than twice as many watersheds within the next 4 years and serving nearly 900,000 people by 2025. We're currently working on plans to begin program in a 9th country, Malawi, even as we're looking at how we can continue to scale up in the existing 8. But I have to share that a part of my own dream is that these little miracles, these 41 little miracles that we've been privileged to participate in, privileged to work with, can begin to capture the imagination of a world that's literally starved for good news. A world that's wallowing in bad news right now. We live at a time in which, sadly, the story of where God is at work in the world doesn't travel anywhere near as fast or forcefully as the story of where evil is at play. I think we can change that. There's no doubt these stories have already captured the attention of their neighbors. We found that we don't need to work with everyone in a watershed before neighbors teach neighbors. Savings groups begin to start spontaneously. Churches grow and meet needs on their own, and we find that we can graduate entire watersheds. We've even found that when we arrive at new watersheds, the work is easier because news does travel. And when we get there, the local leaders and pastors are ready and waiting and eager to get started. Well, I don't want to leave you with the idea that everything is perfect. We still live in a fallen world, and we are not ushering in the kingdom of God. Offering glimpses, perhaps, a witness for sure. But in fact, the work we do is incredibly fragile. I think of our friends in Haiti right now and elsewhere, and I acknowledge the fact that the success we're experiencing is solely by the grace of God. It's often done in the shadow of conflict, hopelessness, and despair. But you know what? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. I am so blessed to be a part of this, and so thankful to you all for being a part of this as well. Thank you for your role in helping to bring about these miracles.